If you're a senior executive and you are dissatisfied right now, there's a really good chance that before you go to bed every night, you're thinking about work. And when you wake up, the first thing that happens in the morning, you're thinking about work. And it doesn't have to be this way. Stick around with me in this session. I'm going to talk to you about your bliss and what's getting in the way of it. I'm going to jump right in today and give you an exercise. It's going to be on one piece of paper. We're going to divide that paper into two and ask you two questions. It's a very simple exercise for you to connect back to bliss, especially if you're feeling undervalued right now, maybe underutilized or unappreciated. Or you're that person, as I mentioned at the beginning, you're going to bed thinking about work, having just put your emails down less than 20 minutes before, or you're waking up in the morning thinking about work. And within the first 20 minutes of your day, you're the person who picks up a phone and takes a look at email and text messages from people that you work with. Okay, so take your piece of paper. I don't know if it's portrait or landscape, you figure out which way you want to do that. But I want you to draw a line down the middle of the page. And on the left-hand side, at the top of that page, I want you to write down what steals my bliss. You got to write that down at the top of the page. And I'm going to give you some prompts from my own activities. Today, I went through this exercise to reconnect to my bliss, but I want to start to identify what are the things that bring me misery, don't make me very happy, that actually take away the bliss that I have in life. You know, and bliss is a state of being. Bliss is a way you can walk through life feeling calm, but energized on the inside and not really caring too much about the external world, because guess what? That's chaotic. It's a crazy world we live in. I'm not saying you don't have anxiety. I'm not saying you shouldn't have fears. I actually think having anxieties and fears is actually healthy for the right doses. So make sure that you have that piece of paper and on the right-hand side, what steals my bliss? Okay, so here's some prompts for you, and I'm going to do this directly from my work. I've got the notes right down here in front of me. I'm going to take this and start thinking about what are the things that take my bliss away every single day. And the first category I want to give to you is people, other people. You have to pay more attention to who you're hanging around with, and I've had to do this. And you have two choices. And it may sound harsh to you because you've known some of these people your entire life, and they've been a big part of the fabric of your life and who you are today. And so you feel a little bit uncertain of, why would I cut these people out? I'm not saying that. I'm going to use this phrase: dramatically reduce or eliminate time with these people. Now, if they're constantly draining you, constantly negative, constantly complaining, despite all of your best advice, I do recommend you really bring down the amount of time that you hang around with these people. And it is possible to love them from a distance. You don't have to be directly in their lives. You can just love them from a distance, spend less time with them. But when you're with them, get in and out. Don't be hanging around and letting them constantly suck the energy from you. And this happens. So here's your exercise. Write down the people. You know, for me, it's been difficult because some of those people have been friends from life. And I've had to either dramatically reduce a lot less time or eliminate completely any conversation with them, any interaction with them, depending on the severity of the way that they impacted my bliss. So that's your first category, people. And just before we leave this topic, I said that I would share mine, and I'll tell you, there are people in my ex-client pool who I would never want to spend any time with ever again. They've had their shot. I gave them everything I could, and if they were ungrateful or they don't speak to me anymore, or they are unresponsive or non-responsive to any of my messages, it is okay to let those people go. So these are kind of real life examples of people that take away my bliss. And so I just decide, no, you're not going to take away my bliss anymore. So I'm not going to dedicate any more energy to this. And you got to get comfortable. It's okay, people, to let those people go. On this same topic, I want to talk about some of the behaviors that take away my bliss. And you're going to be here with me. I can feel you already watching this going, and I know what he's going to say. Yeah, the things that take my bliss away from a behavioral standpoint: rumination and overthinking. You feel me? I know that you feel this. I know that you overthink. You're a deep thinker, and there's nothing wrong with being a deep thinker. I love to work with deep thinkers. I'm a deep thinker. But there are times when you have to understand spending an inordinate amount of time on something that cannot be solved because it maybe is in the external world needs to be addressed, and it takes away your bliss. So you've got to be really careful about protecting what's going on inside of you by these external activities. So I've been guilty of rumination. That's an example of something you can write down. What other behaviors do you engage in every day that you know you need to start to dramatically reduce or eliminate. Now, I know it's a crazy and chaotic world, so there's some other prompts for you here. What are the things that are draining your bliss, taking away your bliss? So for me, it's always been television. Television, I have to be very careful about the amount of time I dedicate to that. And I'm going to talk about what gives you bliss later, but I want to tell you that I dramatically reduced my relationship with TV. And I was somebody who watched hours upon hours upon hours. I even went to holiday destinations and spent more time in the villa or on the sofa in the apartment than I did actually at the beach because I was watching tennis or TV or just drivel that was on the screens because I was a big advocate of TV. But now I know that takes away my bliss. I dramatically reduce my relationship with it, so I don't spend as much time there. There's other things in my life that I stay away from. Politics. Now, some people say they don't care too much about the politicking and what's going on with the politics and the governance of a country. And this is global, by the way. I came from the UK. I now live in the US. So I've seen both sides. I've seen how the UK politic environment works. And then now the US government and the administration here, I see how that works. And the systems are night and day. But we all think they're the same. Now, some of the behaviors are the same. And I do think that the behaviors of those individuals does not help the people of the nations. And then we have these people of the nations, frankly, divided, spitting venom, spitting vitriol, and just being hurtful to other people. Now, I believe in humanity and I believe in oneness, and I don't want to be anywhere near that because when I'm near it, it takes away my bliss. One more thing for you in kind of things that get to me. And I want to give you this example because I know that there's a lot of extroverts who will watch this, a lot of introverts that will watch this. I used to be a huge extrovert. And as I've matured, I've moved closer and closer to the middle and I've become more introvert, especially around some of my behaviors. I love to be alone. I love the silence. And because of that, I can't abhor crowds anymore. I don't want to be near the noise. I don't want to be hanging around with hundreds of thousands of people. I get very uncomfortable in those environments. In fact, where I would spend 3, 4, 5 hours in those environments before and or longer, like be in big cities and want to be where the crowd was, want to be in the busiest bars or want to be at the busiest concerts or the open air 3-day festivals. I want to be in those places. Nothing gives me more pain than that now. So if I go to those places now, I want to just dip in. I want to dramatically reduce the amount of time I'm in the crowds, I'm in the noise, and it's not necessarily about the behaviors, right? So I know in those environments, there's people drinking, there's people doing drugs, people shouting, screaming, yelling. Everybody's going and having a wild time. And I don't mind that. I think there's a place for this as well, right? So I just wanted to kind of let you know that it's okay to dramatically reduce the time with the things that take away your bliss. And for me, crowds has become a really big one. Noise has become a really big one. And I think these are prompts for you to start thinking about, what do I write down on my page? Take your pen, take your paper, get some things down. Seeing this on the page is going to help you become more peaceful and calm immediately. You're actually going to start bringing back your bliss by identifying what you don't want in your life anymore. Right. So by now, the left-hand side of your page or right-hand side or the top, the bottom, whichever way you started this, you've now got a really good appreciation for all of the things that take away your bliss. But look, I don't want to leave you there. I want to build this up. I want to make sure you're starting to invest more in the things that bring you bliss. That really makes you feel good. Feeling good feels good, right? So we want to make sure if we're that person, unappreciated, underutilized, undervalued at work, and we go to bed thinking about work, and we're sending emails to our boss at 11 p.m. or 7 p.m. or whatever it is for you, and you gets in the way of your nighttime routine, and you're not hanging around with the kids, you're not really present with the kids, and then the next day you're waking up and you do that first thing in the morning, because you got to go to work. And I know that 3 out of 4 of you are looking for a new opportunity. So I know that's how you feel on the inside. You wake up and you think, work. I got work. Is it Wednesday yet? Is it hump day yet? I detest hump day, the kind of things that it trains you to think about. I used to have big arguments with my friend Bob. Bob, if you ever watch this, we argued about hump day because I think hump day is a really good way to train you how to be negative, to start thinking about the weekend because it's Wednesday. Oh, we've done the hard work of the week. No, that's not how this works. You should be enjoying this and there should be no hump. Enjoy every single day. But if you're not enjoying it, now we're going to think about those things on the page that are going to bring you more bliss. What are those things for you? And I've got some great examples to prompt now. Well, just as we did with what takes away your bliss, we're going to look at the people who bring us bliss. I want you to write down maybe 4 to 8 people who make your life better. And you'll know who they are because they cheer you on no matter what. They actually invested in you. They ask about you. They are compassionate. They empathize with you when you're going through your dark times, your difficulties, your anxieties, the trouble you have at work. They are the people who lean in and help by actually helping. And sometimes that might be they just come and listen and don't do anything else. These are really good people. There's another characteristic about these people that I want you to pay attention to, and that is they only talk about growth. They only talk about their goals. They only talk about progress. They only talk about winning. They only talk about the house they want, the dream house. They only talk about the next car they're going to buy. They're only talking about forward momentum, and that's what they spend their time on. What they don't spend their time on is talking about other people who are not in the room, and they don't talk about people in a complaining, judgy way. Now, look, who's guilty of this? Yes, this guy. We've all been guilty of complaining about our lives, woe is me, complaining about other people, but we've also been judgy. And I think people automatically have confirmation bias. I'm the hypocrite. Yeah, we sort of kind of talk about this. I'm a hypocrite. We all have confirmation bias because we've been bombarded with filth that just isn't true. And it's modeled us in a way to be obedient workers. We were trained in a school system, an education system that trained us to be obedient workers. And so then we go to work and we're obedient workers. And so we do our backstage gripes. We get behind the scenes at the water cooler at the restaurant. We go out of the office for lunch, or we meet up with buddies at the weekend. And all we can do is complain and gripe and judge. And we've all done it. This guy too. But you want to spend more time, if you want to get back bliss, spend more time with these growth people. They're compassionate. They bring you energy. And they often look like your best friend, but they often look like mentors. They often look like coaches. And that's why in my life now, I've lost count of coaches. I remember my friend Rad once said to me, I got 19 coaches. I'm like, how can you have 19 coaches? How do you have time for 19 coaches? Well, now I'm in that world. I recognize I've lost count. I mean, I certainly know how many paid coaches I've got. So I'm in 3 environments with paid coaches. Four. I'm even losing count. 4 coaches for physical fitness, for mental health, for marketing my business, for selling in my business, a community in my business. These are the things I want. And that's what you can do for your employment too. No matter where you are, you don't have to be an entrepreneur. You don't have to be a business owner. You can be the employee, and you could be the person that's got this group of people around you, mentors, advisors. It's your winning team. You've got to be close to those people. So make a note for you. Who are these people? I'm excited to find out who they are. Okay, I talked to you about behaviors in what's taking away your bliss, but you want to bring back your bliss. You want to start thinking about those behaviors that you do every single day that make you feel good. Now, in my world, it's action. It's always action. I get to the end of my day and I make a note of where did I win today? And I'm always thinking about what did I take action on? What did I move forward? Who did I help? What did I write down? What have I created today? And that's about behavior of taking action, actually doing something. Now, you might be thinking, well, I don't have to do marketing and sales for my business because my job is, I do business development and I do account management and I do operational things. I don't really create. You do. Creative expression is just that physical representation of who you are. So every single day, if you have a telephone call or a Zoom call, Google Hangout or Google Meet or a Teams meeting, and it's by video and you're having that is a creative expression in physical form of who you are. And this is vital. Does that bring you bliss or does it take it away? And you can put that down on the page. But for me, connection brings me bliss. So I want to make sure I take action and I have connection every single day. These are good things for me to write down. Now, that's kind of work stuff. But what about self-care? What about taking care of me? Because sometimes we can give and give and give and give to work, and we can forget to take care of who we are. And what I'm talking about is I like to eat well. I like to eat. There's an abundance of food, people. We are so blessed to have this abundance of food. So I like to eat as clean as possible. I call it 80 to 85% of the time. I was telling one of my clients this week that last week I ate cake. And it's like, you ate cake? And I'm like, yeah, you got to schedule time to enjoy your life. I still eat cake, but I'm really careful about other things, the amount of sugar and the amount of alcohol, the amount of saturated fat, triglycerides, all the kind of things that we know we shouldn't do. I'm very careful about that. That's why I eliminate fried foods and I eliminated all of these foods that weren't food, like candy. I just kind of gone because it didn't bring me any bliss anymore. So that went away. So these are the things. Eating clean, I like to think about drinking water and hydration as washing internally. You know what I think? You know how I'm feeling there? Wash yourself internally. Think about yourself as that aquarium. How clean are you inside? Are you drinking buckets and buckets of coffee and tea and unsweetened teas and sodas and juices that are just loaded with things that are going to dirty you up inside? One of the other things that brings me incredible amounts of bliss is going to the gym, working out. When I'm not working out, let's do it this way. Alcohol takes away my bliss. Gym brings my bliss. So when I'm in reverse, I've taken away my bliss. So if I'm drinking alcohol, I'm not working out, that's not working for me. Now, I'm not saying you need to give up alcohol. I actually think alcohol has a place. But that is an uncommon perspective, especially among the 12-step program people or people who've recovered from alcohol addiction, or an addict. That might be an unpopular opinion, but I think there is a place for alcohol because, like any other drug, you can't tell me that you haven't had one of your best nights out where alcohol wasn't involved, and that is living. So there is a place for that, but dramatically reduce. Remember, we talked about you don't have to eliminate any of these things because I'm telling you, it makes me feel good not to have alcohol. But you do need to think about, for you, what level of alcohol is right? Is it zero? Or where's the moderation around that? And what are you doing? So write these things down. Get this down into your bliss column. I want you to do that. I got walks on my list here. I've got being outside in nature here. I like being in shorts and a t-shirt and nothing else. I like barefoot. Walking around the house barefoot, walking outside the patio in the grass barefoot. I like being on vacation barefoot and not actually having to have anything between me and the earth. And that brings me bliss. That feels good. Feeling good feels good. So we do these things. I love sunshine. I love watching clouds go by. If these are the things that bring you bliss, write down your list. Do more of these things to bring you bliss. And when you have this stuff going on in your life, you'll notice work is more joyful. You enjoy more work. You enjoy the people more at work. You enjoy the tasks, the activities, the labor that you're putting in for the reward, the activities to get paid for. You actually start to enjoy more of that. One more thing for me, I love aviation and planes and pretty much anything that flies in the sky. So I just like hanging out. I'll drive to the end of the runway at Dallas Fort Worth Airport and just sit and just watch planes come and go. They have cycles of planes, right? They do so many cycles in a given day. And so you can watch a cycle, then it goes quiet for a while, no planes taking off, no planes landing. They swap over the air traffic control teams, and then they run another cycle. It's fascinating to me, but it brings me incredible amount of bliss. I find it very calming, very peaceful. What is it for you? What's that thing for you? Is it music? Is it singing? I don't know. You got to write those things down. Okay, let's wrap this up with some things I also want you to think about as things that could bring you more bliss. Let's look at those. I often ask the question, what do you like to do? And people will say, I like helping people. And I'll say, okay, give me some examples of how you help people. And they will struggle to tell me how they help people. So if you are somebody who loves helping others and that brings you an incredible amount of bliss, have good examples of how do you do that? And it might be in the way that I do it. Most of what I do is advisory work, strategic advice work, coaching, mentorship. I now have people that I mentor who I'm working with to help them navigate through their careers, through their work. I like to set goals. I like to write down my goal. I like the very act of connecting to my daily intention, to the goals that I have for myself, the goals that I have for my family, for my clients, for the people around me and my communities. I like that. I enjoy that. It brings me incredible amount of bliss to set out the daily intention. I like meditation. It's not woo-woo. I like sitting with my eyes closed, breathing, and just thinking about a particular topic that I want to just ruminate on in the meditation, 5-10 minutes, just thinking time, or emptying my mind completely. And I'm actually become very effective at emptying my mind completely. So there is nothing but peace going on in there. That brings me incredible amounts of bliss. It makes me feel good. And then the last one that I've really started to enjoy more and more is for years and decades, for decades and decades, I always felt silenced by the external world. And now I know that was all me. I made that choice not to speak my mind, not to speak up, to stay silent. And I stayed silent on some of the most pressing agendas of the modern world. Things like racism or gender inequality, those things, I stayed silent because I didn't want to get embroiled in a conversation or attacked for saying the wrong thing. And as we think about what's gone on over the last 5 years, through the pandemic, out the back end of the pandemic here, it's been a fascinating time for those things. And so I've been able to get more knowledge, more wisdom, more experience having conversations with people who have experienced that. Because for me, I didn't. I was in the persecution backstage group, the white middle class kid who had backstage racism pummeled into him as a child. Awful. And so now it brings me an incredible amount of bliss to let go of those things and invest time explaining to people, you are a racist when you say that. This is racism. Backstage racism. And I love that. That brings me bliss to be able to deal with that topic head on, not stay silent. As my friend Scott in his book says, silence kills. It really does. If you're staying silent on these big topics, but your mind is thinking, hey, that's a bit, whoa, you shouldn't say that. That's the time to speak up and stand up for what you believe in and advocate for other groups and make sure they hear you advocate, because it's not good to be. I've been so privileged not to be persecuted that way. But when I see people who've in those groups who have been and still live with it every single day, it's time to stand up. And your voice matters. And hopefully you're one of the people whose voice can change the world. Hopefully you're one of the people who want to, because you feel good after you've done it. You may not feel good in the moment. You may feel nervous or anxious about entering into a conversation you know could be difficult. But at the back end of that, you spoke your mind and you spoke your truth. I'm recording this in Black History Month. And, this may be contentious to you, but if I listen to some of the most the Black people who are luminaries, people of our time, they'll say they don't want Black History Month. Because what's Black history? It's American history. If we talk about that in the US, we don't have American History Month. So let's just do away with Black History Month and let's start fixing the real issues. Let's start talking about American history and the way it is, not the way it was, the way it is, and why we still have issues now. I think this stuff's vital. And I spend more and more time leaning into this, especially about gender inequality as well, and some of the inequalities I've seen in corporate life. I want to wrap this up by bringing it back to how you're feeling. So start thinking about your ability to eliminate or dramatically reduce what's taking away your bliss, and then making notes on what gives you bliss, and then invest more time in that. That's dramatically increase the amount of time doing things that are going to help you feel more bliss, this state of being where everything's great and the external world doesn't matter to you, and you move through it effortlessly with ease and confidence. And the kind of people you hang around, that group of people increases all the time, and you start hanging around some really awesome folks. I hope this message lands well. If you want to watch the next video, you can just click right here, get into that next video, and I'll be super excited to see you right there.